Hi, hello. I have to confess that my hobby these days has been getting stoned and coming up with a talk title, and then I have to make the talk around it, which is kind of how Futel started it too. So this is going to be not as techy of a talk. It's going to be kind of a motivation and kind of backstory on projects talk. So I'm Karl Anderson. And I'm talking about my project, me and several volunteers, we're all volunteers, called Futel, and how and why we're doing it, and what people get out of it. So I'm Karl Anderson. I've been a software engineer for forever. I've worked at security companies, but I haven't been doing that much. I'm not a security engineer myself. I'm a software engineer. So I'm old. And so my career has all kinds of highs and lows. I was a young, ignorant, naive person, and I've been a corporate drone, and I've been a startup cowboy working at startups. I've always been a salaryman, though. I've always just gotten a paycheck. And it's been a very successful career, I think, by which I mean I've been able to do interesting work, and fun stuff, usually. I've had all sorts of crap work, too, but it's turned out very well, which I think I've been very lucky to be as a computer engineer. And this is despite the fact that computer engineering is one of the most unnatural environments for humans. It's not a good way to work, and there's a lot of worse jobs. I picked this picture because these people are working night shift workers on a subway, which is like that lowers your lifespan. There's all sorts of completely seemingly unrelated outcomes from working at night and sleeping during the day. So it's not the worst environment for people to work in, but it is sitting at a desk in an office it's not what we evolved to do, and we've had to do heavy conditioning to be able to do this all our lives. And so even if the job is good, there's a lot of ways to get in, things you have to do to get into it. And in the end of the day, you're working for a conference table full of VCs. You're working to make an investor money. That's your goal. So there's a lot of no matter how much you love the work, there's a lot of kind of twisting and turning to get into that. So this is how I adapted to work in such a harsh environment, is I started a phone company on the side. And a lot of people talk about their side hustles and they're to make big money. That's why they do that. And I always envy them because they're motivated to work really hard on something and they don't know if it's going to work necessarily, and they're making it up as they go. They're kind of building the plane while they're flying it is one thing I heard. And a few of them make it big, and they make big money, and I'm really psyched when that happens. But I do not have business sense or even the aspiration to do this kind of thing. I don't, I've worked at a lot of startups and a lot of companies, and is this a good idea? Is this going to make it? And I never can tell. I just have to say, well, I like this environment, I like the people I'll be working with, and the business people coming up with the idea, I believe in what they're doing, so I'm just going to try it. So my side hustles are always, I'm always stuff that I want to be doing, tech stuff that I want to be doing, that I'm fascinated with the tech. So I think, how can I make this into something interesting? Which is not the right way to do this kind of thing at all if you're trying to be successful. This picture is a Church of Robotron. So it's all about being fascinated by the technology around you while it's blowing air in your face and making loud noises and shocking you and slapping you with little whips and stuff like that. So I didn't try to make any money, and me and a co-founder started a phone company, like I said, which seems like a really good industry to break into, right? The telecommunications, But we had a differentiation strategy. We deployed payphones, and we made them free to use. So you have to walk up to the phone, and then you don't have to pay to use it. So that's how we really stand out in this crowded market of phone companies. So I'll tell you now about Futel itself. Every time I give a talk about Futel, there's always someone who hasn't heard of Futel for some reason. So I'll talk about the background and what it is, what we do, and some part of how we do it. And so what we do is we plunk down payphones, and we put them in public places. They are all, the phones themselves are sitting on private property, but they all extend into the public space. So you can use all of them, almost all of them. You can use them at any time of the day or night, walk up to them, and you don't have to go on private property. No one can kick you out for just being there, you know. You don't have to get permission to use them. And you don't need anything. You don't need an account, an identity, a password, or anything like that. You don't need an identity is the important thing for me. You don't have to tell anyone anything to use the phone. And when you walk up to them, you pick up the handset, you can hear a menu, but the first thing, the option you're given is to make a call. And that is by far what people do with them most, is make calls. And these are all photos of our phones, some of our phones. Some of them are gone, some of them are still there. These chickens would come and look for cigarette butts around the phone. These are my favorite enclosures, the kind of rounded, ovalized rectangle ones. These are all salvaged. This one's in an alley, which is nice. This one is in Ypsilanti, Michigan. They're almost all in Portland. And this one is in Detroit, Michigan. I like this one because they put this chair next to it so you can sit while you're using the phone. Whenever anyone calls from that phone, I say, "Is the chair still there?" And they're like, "Oh yeah, this chair's here." This one was in front of Hedron Hackerspace. This was a great location. This one was also a great location, now gone, but this was at Open Signal, which is a kind of an AV, not AV, but a media, well, it was cable access. Yeah, that's how they started, yes. So there was actually a project associated with this, so people at Open Signal were making creative works to put on the phone. But of course, the first thing you can do when you walk up is make a call. Then when COVID started, everyone was freaking out, of course, and no one knew how it was spreading and stuff like that at the beginning, and we were thinking this is not the right business to be into, but it's not like we're going to pivot or anything like that. So we put hand washing stations at the phones. So they're foot operated, which is a drawback because you can't be a wheelchair user and use it, but they're foot operated, and there's soap there and water, and so you can wash your hands before or after using the phone. Or you could just, if you could use it while you're walking on the street, whatever. Also, another free public amenity is the hand washing stations. This one was made by someone. This person knew what he was doing who made this series of stations here. We got a grant to pay for them. So, and this one was made by me. This is my design. As you can tell, it's not as but it works though. It does the same thing. And then we also had a sanitization program where people would sanitize the phones, and then importantly, they would mark on the phones when they were sanitized so you could see that. It gave you a perception of there was safety at the phone. So not only were we sanitizing them, but we were showing people. That was what was important. And this is the most recent map of our phones. They're all, the maps are always out of date because we only make one of them a year, but this is 11 phones in Portland and one in Detroit, Ypsilanti, and Long Beach, Washington. And of the phones in Portland, one of them's at Right to Dream 2. So that's their phone. You have to get their permission to use them. One of them's at the Social Justice Action Center. And then one of them's at a bar phone. So you need the bartender's permission to be there. So that's not ideal, but it's nice, it's fun. Matthew Lippincott made this map. And you can call anywhere in North America with the phones. It's free calling to anywhere in North America. This picture was ripped off from the Oregonian. This is actually a friend of mine. It's not a creep shot. But one thing I like about this picture is someone just put a flyer up there. There's some kind of fundraiser or something. I love it. People were putting flyers up on the phones. It was a community space. And the phones, so you can make a call, like I said. Other features are there's directories. There's directories of interesting numbers. If there's anything artistic that you can reach on the phone, we'll put it there if we can. And then there's a social services directory, so things you can, housing, legal help, health, things like that. Anything that might be useful to people, especially houseless people, we'll put that on the phone. And voicemail, you can set up a voicemail box and check your voicemail and leave voicemail on the phones. And then we have some creative stuff too. There's some puzzles and artistic stuff too. There's a we have kind of an audio zine called the Wildcard Line, where you can hear messages that someone else has left, and then we kind of digest them and respond to them, and then you can respond to earlier ones too. So, I mean, it's a podcast is what it is, but it's basically voicemail as a project. And there's other things along those ideas. Anything that's an interesting number, we'll put it on there. And we did have the Oregon UFO call-in hotline. If you see a UFO, you can call it in. And the guy running it actually called me and said, "Can you take our number off of here, because no one has a real UFO that's calling from this phone." Yeah. And so the phones are they get a lot of use. When I first put the first phone up there, I didn't put any copy on the phone. I didn't put the Futel labeling on it or anything. It just said WiMACtel or whatever. And I just put it out there to see who discovered it. And it took about 2 weeks for it to get regular use, like daily use. And then people saw people using it or told people or something. And then that's when I knew that it was an experiment that was actually useful for people. So I thought like maybe people could use a phone. So I put it out there, and they did it. I'm saying I and we. There's many volunteers in this group, but I'm speaking for myself. I think a lot of us have the same motivations, but I'm the one here talking. So I'm speaking for myself, but there's many essential volunteers that keep the project running as well. And then I started putting our own copy on the phones. I didn't really want to do that. I really liked the project being kind of situationist, kind of undescribed. You had to guess about what it was. But it needs funding, so I had to. Eventually, I had to put my own name on it and stuff like that, so I could and have a web presence and have things like that to kind of keep the project running. So it's not as mysterious as I'd like it to be. This is one of the plates we put on the phones. I like how it gets used and smeared and stuff like that in the field. These are kind of riffs on the little plates you'll see on payphones, or used to see on payphones, where it has all this little copy that no one ever reads. No one ever reads these things except me and a lot of you, I'm sure too. Kind of like the Spurgy people. But I liked sneaking that in there, so there's a rant on there. It's like, why is this? What's the point of that? But it also tells you that that it's free, that you can get 911, and you can call an operator too. We have operator calls on the phone. You got a question? Yeah. Yes. Is it a live operator? Yes. We have 7 operators right now, and you're not sitting in a room picking up operator calls. They get forwarded to our phones, and then whoever accepts the call, there's a little warning before you accept it, if you want to accept it, and then you can be the operator. Yes. We're looking for operators. Anything that looks good too, that was made by Debbie, another volunteer. I can't do anything like that. So we have all sorts of people working on the project. Most of the operator calls are people looking for things like services. What's the number for Blanchet House, or where is this place I'm going, or something like that, or health clinics or stuff like that. And then there's a lot of people just looking for whatever phone numbers or locations or stuff like that. And then there's a lot of people who just are having fun, want to talk or something like that, which is fun too. And then there's a lot of people who are just like, "Whoa, what is this?" And I just say it's a phone and hang up on them because I find it, yeah. I'm usually not rude, It's why don't you try it? Say things like that. But the thing about being an operator, the point is to help people being an operator. Some people really need the help, and you don't have to like the people you're helping. The people can be rude or tweaking or having serious mental health issues or stuff like that, and I'll still help them. They may not be pleasant to talk to, but I'll still help them if I can, because that's, I have the luxury of sitting by my phone, and they're out on the sidewalk somewhere too. But if anyone's being like rude or if it's unpleasant, if it's too unpleasant to be an operator can just say, "Try again," when you can not scream at me or whatever. But so yeah, all types of people do use these phones. It's all run on salvaged equipment, and most of the stuff we use, we are the last stop before it's going to get shipped off to China, and children will be melting it down for the metals. This is many of you will recognize the venerable WRTGL 54G, yes. We can't use these anymore because, so these routers, we use them for our VPN, and we get all of our routers from the personal telco project, so we take the stuff that they can't even use anymore. And Russell here told me how to basically strip it down so I could fit it on the routers we use. So we can't use these ones anymore, they're too tiny, but we are using everything is the last stop. And including all the phone hardware, of course, that's, we get those whatever way we can. And, but all this stuff, Wymac, all the phone companies, they don't, when the phones get decommissioned, they just leave them there. They don't take them down. And then when they do take them down, they don't even hire someone. Usually they're like, you get the money, like, yeah, sure, here's your route. Pick up these phones and don't tell us where they go, sell the metals and you can have the quarters, if there's quarters in there, I really don't like how the phone companies leave phones that aren't working on the street. That's what bothers me. I mean, if you're not going to make money off it, fine. You don't have to do something if it's not working for you. But we got one operator call because there was an OD or something. Someone had to run to one of our phones and they had to pass 2 payphones. They told me, or they told the operator how they got there, and I figured out they had to run past 2 non-working payphones to get to our phone to talk to an operator. So, our phones go down, but the priority is robustness. We keep them up. They go down, we bring them back up. I monitor them, I can see what's happening, and so the priority is reliability because people do rely on these phones. And so so we put them out and people smash them. Actually, these phones, they don't get smashed very much. This was 1 year. All these pictures of smashed up phones are from 1 year. I think it was 2021, I forget. But it was a bad year. But usually I have to replace maybe 1 phone and 2 handsets a year. So it's not so bad. And most of them I can repair them and put them back out. This phone, you can see someone had a crowbar or something in the coin slot trying to get into the vault down there. And then when that didn't work, they just tried to get in, however. It's hard to do this kind of damage to a phone. The phones are made, payphones are made, that's why we use payphones, because they're made for you to take out your aggression on the phone when you don't like what you're hearing on the phone, So, and they have money in them, but you're never going to make money by breaking into a phone, because when I've had to do it, to get into the vault, it cost me like 2.5 cutting discs and several hours of work. It probably cost me $10, even if my time was free. So you're not going to be doing this if you have common sense. People who do this are tweaking usually. And our phones, I try to make them so that if you put a coin in, it goes straight to the return. So if this person had a coin, they could have seen that coins are not going in there. But some of them, the phones, there's not enough hardware in there, and so if you put a coin in there, it just goes into, it just bounces off the circuit board and goes into the case or something like that. So some of them can't do that. Is there a question? Yeah. Why not just remove the coin box? Because, 2 reasons. One is because needles and crap will get put in there, because whenever there's, if you notice the bottom of this enclosure, it's I think this is one of them, it's tilted. You don't want to put a flat surface out because people will put trash on there. So you put a tilted surface so the trash falls off, But also, I like the look of having the coin box in there, but also the way you attach a phone to the enclosure is you open the case, you bolt the back of the case onto the enclosure just with normal bolts, and then you lock the case. So the phone locks itself under the enclosure. There's no security bits or anything like that. It's just the locking case protects the phone. And some of those bolts are behind the coin box. So that's why. There's actually 2 different locks because there's one key. Most phones have the same key for the top case because that's where the phone is repaired. And then the vault is where you get the money out. And we do have some phones that aren't actually pay phones, that they are little stainless steel courtesy phones. And those do not get smashed up. This one, someone used a rock to smash this. And there was a warehouse worker watching him the whole time. And yeah, he did it with his rock. He didn't have gloves. He had his bare hands. And so this guy smashed up his hands to smash up this phone. And you can see it's so smashed up, the T-bar there, I bent it trying to open the phone. It was hard to get into this phone. And I love this phone. No one's getting into this phone. But then they just got the marquee instead. You know. But this phone has like an extra case welded over the case with like a little key, you know, keys together. So it doesn't. Some of them you'll see like an extra hasp over them with a third lock over them. But this is an excellent phone. I like to tell people that these are the operators taking your calls, but that's not actually true. This is a Control H actually. We're just making the hardware and stuff and testing them out by making prank calls to people. But you can see it's a router and a little SIP box. That's all it is on the phone end. And then it's a landline phone that they're hooked up to. And we have an incoming line too, which has some of the features on it. But the main thing about the incoming line that I like is that you can set up your voicemail at a phone, and then you can leave or check voicemail from the incoming line. So you don't have to, once the phone is, you have to be at the phone to set that up, but then you can do it from anywhere. And then we use the voicemail password for certain features on the phone. You need a voicemail password to get in. And then if it's, you know, sometimes if I'm worried about it being loud, people being loud at night, I make it so you have to enter your voicemail password to make a call if it's not 911. Which you can get a voicemail account at that same phone for free. But you have to have the presence of mind to go through the menu and get your password and then enter that in. So that's kind of like it slows people down. Makes them kind of think a minute before they make a phone call. And there's all the stuff to support the project. There's a website. We do a zine every year, kind of a newsletter. We have a SoundCloud for some stuff out there. You know, Patreon site for fundraising. So there's all that stuff built around it to make the phone company run, which isn't necessarily the fun work, but it's all the media and metadata and stuff like that. And that is Futel. That is what we do. And that was the interesting part of the talk. And now I'm going to talk about our motivation and why we do it. Yeah, is there a question? Yeah?
So what do you do about power?
What do we do about power? The phones, so there's a little, if you see the little router and stuff, that gets plugged into the wall inside a building somewhere. Or we could put them in the phones, but we usually don't, because then that goes to the internet, these little routers. And that little SIP box, that's it on the client side. And so that gets power and internet from the building or whatever, and then just the phone line goes to the phone. So the phone does not need to be powered for the phones we're using, unless you have a lamp in there or something. The phone itself is just off of phone line power.
So wherever you put this, you're contracting or discussing this with the building operator and they're providing power?
Yes, yeah, and internet, yes. Although we do have it hasn't been deployed yet for a few things to tweak out, but we do have a solar wireless phone. A wireless phone. We've invented a wireless phone.
Wow.
Yeah. But all the ones are, I mean, that's going to be for like events or whatever, you know, or temporary. So all of these have a host which is providing that kind of stuff, and the space for it too, you know, and whatever. Was there a question?
No, you got
5
5 minutes.
minutes? I thought this was a 50-minute talk. Okay, well, anyway, this is our motivation. Just tell me when I go over, okay? Our motivation was because, you know, when you're talking about the career tracks of engineering professionals, this is a broad simplification, but not talking about management or anything. There's two castes of professionals. There's the Morlocks, who are just making the machinery that everything runs on, and then there's the Eloi, who get to do the interesting things that make that machinery happen, you know, that make that machinery useful to do and helps people, or at least makes someone money. And I'm not talking about, like, you know, back end versus front end, because I was always a back end worker, which is where I like to be, but the clever stuff, the interesting stuff. And So some people get the freedom to do the fun work, and some people are doing the shit work, and it's the kind of people that they're always threatening that they're going to be replaced by offshore workers or AIs now or something like that. So that's kind of like the class boundary that keeps you not wanting to fall back down there, So this is a mouse utopia. This is a mouse experiment where this is the perfect work environment for a mouse instead of a little Skinner box. And some people never can get up to that fun part, for whatever reason. They don't have the skill or the ability or the motivation, which is a skill really. But then there's capacity, which is, a lot of times is economic reasons. It's a privilege to be able to get educated and have the time to educate yourself and stuff like that. So that is something that you don't always get at your day job, And some people seem to belong in the fun part. You've all worked with someone who's like clever, not only works all the time, but works very cleverly and is very, who just like, they're at the top, or at least in their abilities. And this is how I was able to be one of those LOI, is I just had to start a phone company that will never make any money. See, look at those squiggles on the repos, Look at all that work. It's great, And all I had to do is make something that isn't going to make any money, and that's, and no one's going to want to join this startup, both because they're not going to get paid, but also because if you have any pride, you're not going to want to do something like this, really. So that is so you're not going to want to have a garage full of payphones, like stuff like that. So this is our motivation and our secret. That's how we could find the niche and exploit it. And so, is this a secret that makes me a successful and happy person at work? No, it doesn't do that, but it has been good career-wise. I like the business of software. I like the burn-down charts and the tech trees, I like putting all that together, and I've always wanted to be an ops person. I've always been an engineer, and I thought the ops people were a lot cooler, or DevOps or SRE, whatever, Those are the people I admired, so I get to be an ops. That's great. And it's like, those stupid motivational posters at work. It's like that in real life. It's not fake. But for a project like this, I always have to kind of take stock and look at the benefits, because I never have judgment over what's going to be a good project and what isn't going to be a good project. I don't have, especially because, I can never map it out and see, like sometimes in hindsight, I'm like, what did I just do for the last 3 years of my life? And I'm also usually doing stuff that I don't know what I'm doing. I'm learning it on the job. This is a controller for the Church of Robotron it's on the ground. It's a teensy. I just put leads on there. Am I getting kicked out? Yeah. All right. Thank you, everybody. Thank you for coming to the talk. Thank you.